a little testing with the V3i and the 12-inch super coil. This is a test I like to do with all the detectors that I use, and basically it's using nails and either high conductive like a quarter, and then a low conductive like a nickel, just to see how it responds, if it's going to completely null, or if the detector is going to be able to pick out. What I've noticed with testing like the E-track and the XV-DAS, it can be dependent. Some coils will actually do a better job. I've tested the V3i with the double D coil, and it would do alright, especially if the nails are oriented a certain direction, running where they're running parallel with the center of the coil. Tested the DD sharpshooter, the little 4x6, and similar results. As long as the nails are running alongside the center of that coil, it does a pretty good job. One test that really distinguishes, I mean, of course everybody's familiar with the Monte nail test, but that was performed with the nails at the same level as the coin that you were testing. And there are several detectors that can do well with that test, and it's a good test. I found through further testing that if the nails are over the top of the coin, then it becomes even harder for the detector to actually detect the coin. I had tested that with the V3i and had acceptable results, especially in one direction. V3i had done well, but just testing the Super 12 coil to see how it did, and been pleasantly surprised. Of course, it's an indoor test. It's raining out today, but many of the other tests I've done have also been indoors, and I've been able to repeat them when I go outside, so I'm not really worried about that. But there is a little more just EMI interference being inside. But just to begin, I'll go over this area that I'm testing, just to show that there's really nothing there. There were some nails underneath, but I'm not really worried about nails. I'm just showing it. There's nothing hidden underneath that's going to cause it to give a positive signal. I'm just running a modified coin program. Basically, I've opened up the lower VDIs. I think anything that's positive. Then I've blocked out some of the tabs. You can probably tell that from the bar across the bottom. The way this is set up is I've got two books, approximately a little over an inch in height on either side, and then a sheet of paper right on the floor. It's at floor level, so we'll just start doing some different tests to see how it reacts with proximity of the iron nails next to the coin. Okay, so the first test, just a quarter. Now we've got our quarter, and we put a rusty nail on either side. One's of course are bent, then one's straight, and these are old rusty square nails. We'll see how that does. And we'll turn 90 degrees. Really no problem there. We'll go ahead and take the quarter out, and then just show the nails to see if that it's not a falsing signal. So now just the nails by themselves. So now we've got our quarter back and our two nails. And then we've added a third nail. It's quite a bit longer. It's an old rusty square nail. Put it at an angle. We're going to see how that does. A little more fluctuation to the signal, but still repeatable. Degrees. Now we have the quarter. We have our two nails again. One is horizontal, one is vertical, and this time the nails are actually elevated. They're sitting up on a book. Hopefully you can see that perspective. And then the quarter is down below them, approximately inch and a quarter. I measured it exactly. We'll see how we're able to pick that up. Struggling with that a little bit. I found with this is it seems to pick it up better kind of toward the back of the coil instead of just right directly over it. Still getting, as you see, coin icons. Not giving me a quarter necessarily every time. It is repeatable enough that would probably stop you to investigate. I'm trying to use just a normal swing speed. So if you came across that, at least would make you stop. And of course, if you're hunting in a heavy iron area, I mean, you're going to have a lot more tolerance for your V3i number, and you're just going to, you're going to have to investigate more of the little chirps. Where normally, if you're not in a heavy iron area, you might move on and just kind of write those off. So I mean, you have to be in a proper frame of mind to be able to actually hunt for these coins that are in the heavy iron. But that's pretty good results. I mean, being elevated, usually you just might try that to put the nail above the coin and do the testing, and you'll see a lot of detectors they'll just null on the nail. They'll not pick it up. The nails are still elevated above the quarter. This time I just want to, I've spread them out a little further. The nails are, one of the nails is, I'm just guessing, the tip of it's probably 2 inches from the edge of the quarter. The nail on the left is probably about 3 1/4 inches away from the edge of the quarter. This one is usually a little harder to get to work. Again, this is a 12-inch coil, so all of this is staying underneath. But you'd probably be saying, well, why aren't you using the 4x6? Actually, this gets a little better results, even though the 4x6 can kind of get in between. The nails being elevated can still cause it to null. Trying some different speeds here. It is kind of you just kind of have to find that spot. If we turn 90 degrees, let's see what happens. No problem there. And normally when the nails are facing like this, then it is usually the hardest situation to get them to pick up. Now all of these have been with the quarter, and what shows some of the settings here. The main settings that I'm changing, the ground filter, I've noticed that the higher 12.5 high pass will work better on high conductive targets. If you're doing this test with a nickel or like a gold ring, you're better to use the 5 filter, 5 kilohertz filter, and go a little bit slower. And then the recovery, it's got a recovery on 50. I've tried going, I've tried it different all the way down to 20 and 30, but I didn't really see a lot of improvement on that. So you can kind of experiment with that, see. But it's going to be dependent on mainly the ground filter, how fast that you move that coil. Of course, with the 12 kilohertz ground filter, you can move the coil a lot faster. But it did seem to work a little better with the high conductive targets. And I will say, if you do this test with a nickel, you won't have as good of results. The high conductors seem to do better at punching through the iron. You can get it to work on the low conductors, but it's just not going to be near as a clear response as the higher conductors. So next I'll just do a test with a nickel. The nickel in between the nails are still elevated. I've still got it set at the 12 kilohertz. And all I'm getting is the nails. So let's change that ground filter down to 5 high pass. Moving real slow toward the back of the coil. I am getting actual nickel signals. You'd have to move very, very slowly. I'm going to go ahead and take the nickel out and then try and to just have it in the same position, just to show that this is not just false. Okay, so we got the nickel out, nails were where they were. Trying to get in the same positions I had it before. There was a little bit of a chirp. Not really any response. So it's not falsing. You may have the occasional blip, but not a consistent signal like we were getting before. So hopefully that will help. And again, the main thing that I'm changing is the ground filter. And I did move the recovery down to 50. You can experiment with that a little bit more, but the Super 12 whites, I think it's also, there's some of them that are branded as 300. It's a 12-inch coil, and it seems to work very well in the iron, especially on high conductors. Just have to take a little more patience on the low conductors.